Welcome to the I Don't Know Where My Tax Dollars Go show. Let me tell you where your tax dollars go. I swear you're better off burning it on the table. Maybe I don't want to know where my taxes go. Hey, welcome to the Tax.Pro show. I'm glad you're here. I'm Josh and Ia with over 20 years experience. I've got Jackson here with me today. And we're going to be just kind of talking through some different topics. All right, so topic today, I think a lot of people have misconceptions on where their tax dollars actually go. We have this theory that they go one place, and then what do the numbers say, and does our theory of where we think they go actually line up with where they actually go? So that's where we are.
And I think to just give like a good foundation on how much revenue the government actually makes bringing in from taxes, it's around 2.7 trillion. I think that one of the biggest mistakes is there's a lot of assumptions on where our tax dollars are going.
Yeah, totally. Most Americans are pretty consistent with what they believe. And so there's you've got the Pew Research, you've got the Gallup over the years, and pretty much the survey data says the same thing. And that is most people believe that, number one, their money goes to foreign aid. Number two, it's going to go to like welfare programs. So the third one, so you got foreign aid, welfare, government, waste and inefficiency, and then defense spending. Those are the four biggest categories that Americans believe. Non-U.S., number one, healthcare. Number two, education. Number three, infrastructure. And number four, safety. Then you get into like public services and much less emphasis on military. So where do your actual tax dollars go? The biggest category is actually social programs. So if the top 50% pay 97%, the top 50% income earners in America pay 97% of all U.S. taxes collected. Those people, actually, their money, it's like Robin Hood, the government's being Robin Hood. Their money goes to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment, disability, food stamps. It's going to the bottom 50% of taxpayers. So they just basically are reallocating 50 to 60% of that revenue collected, and they're sending it right back out. Then from there, the second biggest one would be defense and national security. And you're talking like somewhere around 15 to 20%. And so that's going to be your military, your defense, your intelligence agencies, which that would probably encompass more of foreign aid and that kind of stuff. Then you get into the number three thing where your tax dollars actually go, and that's going to be national debt, the interest on national debt, not actually reducing the debt, but 10 to 15% of it is going to national debt, just interest. Last but not least, another 10 to 15% would be going to education, transportation, kind of domestic programs, veterans benefits, housing assistance, all of that, law enforcement. If you were to break it down by the dollar, each dollar received in the U.S., you're going to have for every $1, 50 cents is going to go to social programs, 18 cents is going to the military, 12 cents is going to pay interest, and somewhere around 15% or 15 cents is going to the rest. And that's kind of rough estimate of those numbers.
Should I just burn my tax money, or because it seems like it's not really going in great places?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, if it's going to construction, like locally, and it feels like we're off-roading to work, it's probably not a great situation.
Yeah, definitely it feels that way sometimes, right? That the dollars aren't ever getting to you. And federally, it's hard to see it because those benefits are helping your local community, but it's probably not in the way that you want to help.
They?
Yeah, it's probably not in the way you want to help. And so when you say 50 to 60% goes to welfare, are we enabling the behavior, or are we actually helping the people in that situation? Certain groups are like, no, we need to have people that are getting government benefits. They need to show that there's some progress for them getting out of that behavior. But then you have other people that are like, well, there's people that can't help that they're in that situation, and we want to help them out as well. So it becomes definitely a big political conundrum and an issue of politics. We have definitely created a much larger issue than was ever intended, because a lot of this goes back to the early 1930s when Social Security came around, And the concepts were great. The ideas were great. Where the program has landed versus what the concepts were when it began, those are really big differences.
So what were you, if you were to change something on where our taxes are going, what would you change?
Yeah, that's tough. I think it makes sense that we reward good behavior. I don't think that our social programs are set up to reward good behavior. I think they're set up to reward bad behavior and or leave people in the mindset.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people that are in those programs, a lot of times people in those programs, they don't want to make a certain amount of money because then they'll lose those benefits. And the gap between losing the benefit and gaining the income to where it makes up the difference in that gap is really big for most people that are on these benefits. It's very difficult. There's like a cliff on a lot of these benefits and it just drops off if they make over a certain amount. So then we're essentially telling them, we're not rewarding them by working harder. We're actually saying, well, if you work harder, you're going to get fewer benefits. That's good on the one hand, but I think we should work on a better program to help get them off of those benefits and reward the behavior. And we might do that through tax incentives. One of the things that we have a challenge on is getting people out of that mindset and then rewarding good behavior. Instead, we reward bad behavior. And you can see that when we have government overreach, whenever there's not proper oversight to where those funds are going. That's becomes a really big problem.
It's a great answer. So how do I become a sovereign citizen and not pay any tax, if that's even possible? That's one of the questions I got. Or should I just move to Canada?
Contrary to some people's popular belief, I don't think leaving countries is ideal. I don't think it solves the problem.
Yeah.
Instead, we need to sit down and say, hey, collectively, what makes sense? How can we reward good behavior? And how can we stop rewarding behavior we don't want? But these social programs are continuing to grow, and that's been the biggest problem. That's why we can't balance the budget. We can't do a lot of things because it's such a large portion of the money we bring into the country.
So,
not to get political, but that's a problem.
So what leaders do you think were put in place? I don't know, historically, if I'm being honest. Going back, how did this even start to become a problem?
Social Security, when it originally started, the idea was we want to take care of people that are, it wasn't so much poor, it was just people that were no longer able to take care of themselves because retirement didn't exist. And so you would have people that were aging. It actually, this whole concept came from Germany, which should tell you a lot. The idea was that we, again, that's why, social Germany, not ideal, but in the 30s. But that's where the ideas came from. And so, and further back than that, but what created our current Social Security. When you were elderly, if you didn't have a way to work and you didn't have, normally you would move in with your family. Well, what if you don't have any family? They're trying to figure out how to help those people that were disabled and couldn't work. And so that's why we created the program of Social Security. And originally it was very small. It was only on the first $3,000 of income. It was a very small amount of tax that was paid. And now it's ballooned to just this kind of huge mess. That's how we started the program. The issue is you have a lot of people in Congress of differing opinions. And some people believe, I'm not saying I believe this, I'm just saying some people believe, that if we leave those government benefits in place, then those people, if they are receiving those government benefits from that congressman, are going to be more prone to vote for that congressman because they're getting a reward for leaving him in place. So then it becomes personal interest over what's best for the country. And so then you can get into situations where essentially government handouts are buying votes. And that's a dangerous place to be. Bring on the comments.
That's really interesting. Because honestly, it really seems like it was a thing that was supposed to be meant for good. Like, the idea was to help people who didn't have family around. And I'm totally for that. I think that's great. If you have got a better solution, let me know. But I think the best thing actually would be put your money that you're putting into Social Security in the market long term, and you'll have a better turnout of growth. I mean, what do you think
for sure. So to be clear, the money that's going to the money that you're paying in taxes to go to Social Security, those funds are not, they are being spent, but they're not supposed to be spent. They're supposed to be kept by the government and invested. The dollars that we're talking about are the income tax dollars that are reallocated to government security.
Sorry about that.
It's
yeah,
okay.
I just went totally.
To government social programs. And so those are different. But yeah, I mean, for sure, I don't want to necessarily jump topics, but yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. If you could invest your own money, it would be way better, obviously. And that's why people get upset on this topic, because they put the money into the government and literally they feel like it would be more advantageous for me to watch the money burn, because I don't actually get to see where those dollars go and how those dollars influence my community or our country. Instead, everybody feels like all their dollars are going to a Somalian daycare. And that's the problem.
Assumptions, man. They'll get you into believing some crazy stuff.
Yeah, so. If you want to start a Somalian daycare, just call. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just call us. Back to talking about what tax dollars are actually paid for.
I went through it a little bit. I would say we have a lot of financial challenges as a country. It's shocking that we can't run our country on $2.7 trillion. And a lot of that is because we have a spending problem. And a lot of that goes back to Congress and how we have set up Congress and the way we've awarded their behavior. And so in order
our debt is crazy right now. It's insane. It's astronomical. I mean, it's, 30, what are we at? $30 trillion in debt or something? I try not to think about it. It's that bad.
So we're the U.S. national debt as of March 2026, you're somewhere right around, we're surpassing 39 trillion. If you divide that by 135 million households in America, somewhere around $285,000 per household. So the government has effectively borrowed in your name $285,000 of money to run our country. Who's responsible to repay that? And that's why people have a problem sending checks to the government to pay their taxes, because the government doesn't understand a simple concept.
Yeah, at this point, it's so big. If the debt were to double, it would be like, oh, it must have been a software update.
The problem is if you think about how much money that is to repay, and you said each household has to repay it, and on top of that, we still are spending more money than we're bringing in. You can't operate your home budget that way for long, can you? If you live on credit cards or you live on debt, borrowed money, how long can you do that and expect the results to be good? There's a finite amount of time. You can't keep doing it. We've been doing that as a country for a long time. And so that's why we've created this issue. Do I lose sleep over it? No, I definitely don't. Because how much control do I have over this? I don't.
Not a zero.
All I can do is I can vote for and talk to my congressman and say, hey guys, this doesn't make sense. We need to work on fixing it. But because we have such a diverse group of people across the U.S., you're going to hear a wide variety of people that will very much disagree with me, and they'll also disagree with people in different areas across the country. Somebody in Southern California might not agree with somebody in New York State. And they're definitely not probably going to agree with somebody in Mississippi, because we have different ideas on what we should do with our finances. And that makes it really hard to balance a budget. This episode is sponsored by Payority. If you're doing your own payroll, you should fire yourself today. Believe me, you're getting diminishing returns on whatever work that you think and time and money that you think that you're saving. It is not in your best interest. Payroll is one of the most complicated things on the planet that happens in the U.S. Payority is in every state, and they are payroll experts. They're going to ensure time and efficiency, making sure that your people are paid and that compliance is met. You can learn more by visiting payority.com today.
I love that you brought up the Germany deal. That was crazy, actually. I did not know that. That's crazy.
No, I didn't get
in the 1930s? Oh, man, we should talk about that.
The guy that actually started it, this idea came, because Germany put it in place first. The guy that came up with the idea was the only one in the country old enough to participate in the program to actually get...
Oh, my gosh. What a selfish leader. That's crazy.
And so everybody, because the average lifespan was like 50. Yeah. And he was like...
He's like, hey, let's do... Oh, my gosh.
And you had to be like 65 or over.
That'd be like if an 80-year-old, like...
That's where it all came from.
That's crazy.
That was the concept of Social Security.
God.
It's it literally is a social program. Like, it's amazing that it even happened in America and that was before World War II, because that was in the 40s.
Yeah.
And so I think it wouldn't have happened if it was in the 40s, because people were so anti the language of socialism, but that didn't happen until World War II.
And it's so Social Security. I cannot get over that law. It's like,
and it literally
cringe
came from Germany. I mean,
all over. Yeah.
And it's 50 to 60% of your money, not the top dollars that go to Social Security. That's why I clarified that.
Right.
Of your income tax dollars are going to fund those programs.
That's crazy.
On top of it. So the money that's going to Social Security, the government's still using to operate.
Yeah.
Because
On top
of the income tax. And they probably, they don't have to worry about saving it for later, because it's going to end up, I mean, chances of you actually using it are so low, right? Because of the age.
Well, the concept was,
you can use some of it.
The concept was, we'll borrow from Social Security and pay it back.
Okay.
Right? Instead of investing the money in the market, we'll
so
just
bad.
borrow the money from Social Security and pay it back. But the issue is there's not enough dollars coming in, because we spend more than we take. So here's what we should do. We should have done. How much, on average,
I mean, I think we're still
does
going, though.
the U.S. spend to operate?
This was a thing that was brought up in the 1930s, is what you said?
Yeah, it was the early 30s is when the U.S. adopted. I think it was 33 or something. You have to look. I'm not good with that. So $7 trillion a year is what we're spending to operate. So we're bringing in $2.7 trillion, and we're spending $7 trillion.
Oh, my gosh.
So if you spent your household income almost 3 times, more than 3 times, you spend your household income 3 times a year, how many years do you have to work to repay that? You'll never repay it.
You won't.
It's
can't.
impossible.
Yeah.
So then the question is how many years do you have to stop all of your spending altogether to repay it? Let me tell you why I don't lose sleep over this. This is the, subscribe and pay the extra for Josh's thoughts. So it's a balance sheet equation. And this is why I don't lose sleep over us being in so much debt. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's reality. So let's go back to history. And I know this is going to be unpopular, but Andrew Jackson, yes, Mr. Trail of Tears that everybody hates, was the only president to leave U.S. office
in history,
in the history of the United States, in a surplus. When he left office, we had $500,000 of cash in the bank, and we paid all of our debt off. The only one to ever do it. How did he do it? Thus, the Trail of Tears. He went and he took the land and he sold the land. With the money from selling the land, he used that to repay all the national debt, and we ended with the surplus. We actually still sit on some of the world's largest reserves of coal, oil, gas, and natural resources right here in the U.S. It's a balance sheet equation, and that's a very accounting term. But a balance sheet does what it says it does. It stays in balance. You have your assets, and that equals your liabilities and your owner's equity. We talk all the time about one category, and that is the liabilities of the U.S. That's the $39 trillion. We talk about it all the time.
The debt. Yeah.
The debt. It's what we owe, right? We don't ever talk about the asset side of the U.S. On the asset side of the balance sheet, we have all these natural resources that are way more valuable than $39 trillion of debt. So that's why we are not actually operating as we don't have a negative net worth as a country. That's what I'm trying to say. We actually have a positive net worth because our natural resources way outweigh our debt. So then the question is who owns the natural resources? Who owns them? Mostly it's private owners. It's people that own the land, and that's how land laws are created and that kind of stuff. But in the past, the government has had no problem taking those back from people, aka Trail of Tears, selling them to help the government. We still have this with our gold laws. Like gold in bars can be recalled by the government. That's why you don't want gold in bars. You want collector's items, coins that are gold. Because gold and silver bars can be recalled by the government, and the government can literally pull your gold back to them as property, and you don't have a say in the matter. Same thing. They could, because we don't actually own our land in America. We rent our land from the government through property taxes. they could pull those natural resources and sell them and pay off the national debt. And then we would no longer have national debt. And that's why I don't lose sleep about it overnight.
Is there ever a chance where our net equity and our assets go like sink down and we've only got our liabilities left, our debt
So
left?
here's the problem.
What could happen there?
Yeah, so here's the problem. What causes our national natural sources, say that 5 times fast, what actually causes our natural national resources to lose value? And this is what I think is dangerous about the whole energy movement. Because a lot of the energy movement is at some level devaluing our natural resources here in America. And if we devalue those and we don't pay off the debt, then, listen to me, we could have a problem.
Interesting. That's fascinating. Wow. So what would happen?
What would happen? Well, what we do in business is we do a capital call. And nobody wants to do that, right? That's when citizens leave the country. But you could do a capital call where basically everybody has to pay the money into the government to keep the government afloat. The value of the dollar could go to zero. That's a possibility. It's happened in other countries, and like a wheelbarrow full of cash buys a loaf of bread. I mean, it just goes to nothing. There's no value. That's really bad stuff. I think most of that stuff will not happen. I think there's countries that would love for that to happen. I don't think that most of that would happen because I think we have the resources to pay the debt. And it's going to take a long time to solve these problems. We didn't create these problems overnight. It takes a long time to solve them. But the first thing we've got to do is we've got to actually get our budget in balance and only spend what we make.
Which comes to another question I've got. I know we're running long, but why don't we just take what we have as equity and assets and just smack the debt in the face and bring it to zero so that we've got positives all over?
Most people don't like Andrew Jackson.
I know they don't.
And that's why.
I'm not saying everything he did was great, but
that's what he did though. And that's why. But here's the thing. He ran and got elected based on that concept.
That was pretty
He said, I'm going to pay off the debt.
Yeah.
Because he was a good man with finances. Yeah. And he was terrible to the Native Americans.
It's true. It's fair.
So, yeah, I mean, it's sad. And that's why they call it the Trail of Tears, because it is sad. And the even worse part is the next president left office with national debt. So it's like the legacy didn't live on. We had a huge opportunity, and it didn't happen. So that's to me, the real Trail of Tears. It's awful what happened to get the money, but it's even worse that investment didn't continue.
It all went to nothing.
And instead it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. The last time we had a balanced budget was Bill Clinton. Think about that.
Wow. That's shocking. It's crazy.
Yeah. Now it's the politics show. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. I'm glad that you're here. Listen, I know you get a lot of stuff in your feed. And if you have enjoyed this show, you could do me a huge favor if you'll just like and subscribe to this channel. That way we don't get lost in the noise and you continue learning about taxation and the U.S. We really want to further our mission, and that's something that you can do to help us reach more people. So if you'll do that, thanks so much. Pay your taxes. That's why we had the Boston Tea Party.